Why am I, as a Russian Canadian, dislike Donald Trump? This is what we will talk about today. Hello there, I'm Elena. Welcome back to my channel, Enough of Propaganda. Please like, subscribe, share my videos. Let's make truth available for everyone. I am trying, in short video, explain how Russian Canadian, for example, feels about Donald Trump and why, in particular, I dislike him so much. Okay, let's start from the idea. Some Trump supporters, MAGA Republicans, for example, they trying to push that kind of narrative that if people criticize Donald Trump, they for some reason, unknown reason, or no reason whatsoever, have some sort of a issue. They literally either personally dislike him because, I don't know, maybe they can't explain it, maybe because of his hairstyle, his skin color, his suit, his tie, whatever, he put wrong shoes today. They have no reason, but they dislike him. Or they dislike him because they want to push their agenda and they want to discredit him just to make themselves and their Democratic Party look better and something like that. I am none of these people. I was born in the USSR, in the Russian Federation, which was 15 republics. Russia was one of them. So I had no reason to like or dislike any of American. I actually had a reason to dislike American politicians, all of them, because the United States for Russia and the USSR was an enemy, not adversary, not a partner. For many, many years, it was an enemy. I wasn't born in Stalin time. I'm not that old. But I lived through Perestroika. I remember Gorbachev very well. I remember even Brezhnev and a couple people in between. But the point is, I remember first time seeing Donald Trump. It was on the show Apprentice, which few episodes were, like the episodes of it, several of them were on Russian Soviet TV. And I remember seeing during Perestroika, we started to see more foreign TV, foreign programs and so on from abroad. USSR was completely closed country. But right now, I don't want to talk about the USSR. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me because I know a lot about it. Many of people on YouTube have no clue. They never lived in the USSR. Some of them researched it. Some of them deeply, even like Anna Applebaum, she actually have been there. But the point is, many people never did. So you're welcome to ask me if you're interested. Right now, I remember seeing him on the TV show. At the time, I did not know who he was. He was presented as a successful businessman, American businessman. So we were all curious about the United States. In Russia, was McDonald's is opening, and I know some foreigners started to come to my university. I have another video when I was talking about the KGB. They all was watched by the KGB, by the way, and a couple videos about it. I explained it more deeply. But I remember seeing him, and I thought, interesting. He is interesting person, interesting personality. And I was under the impression that he is actually a successful businessman. So I didn't have any reasons to dislike him whatsoever. Like him, nah, maybe more because he was interesting. He was an American. We were very fascinated with Americans, and I even told you in some of my videos that the first American, I remember the first American who I ever met personally, it was Dean Reed. And if you don't know who Dean Reed is, it was Red Elvis, basically. It was a singer, cowboy singer, basically, from the United States, which Americans don't know and don't appreciate, but Russians, whole the USSR loved him, and he basically single-handedly helped Russian people to stop hating Americans and started to actually like them. But that's not the point. The point is, Trump was a very interesting character. I had no reason to dislike him, and so on. Later on in life, especially after I moved to Canada, I started to watch him more closely because the United States is the world leader. It's a neighbor, Canadian country friend, and the country we as Canadians really dependent on our security of military and so on, and for many other reasons. So I started to watch several American politicians, and I watched them for over 20 years now. And what I find out, and I was shocked. I remember the first time I saw him speaking about Russia in such a way that I was shocked. He was speaking to a journalist and defending Russia. And at the time, I already knew history of the USSR and Russia, and I knew what Russia did and the USSR did to other countries. And he trying to put them on the same level as the United States. And it's not on the same level. He was trying to defend the USSR like a person who was born in the USSR, lived in the USSR, and was brainwashed in the USSR will do. I was shocked. Why an American, let alone American politician, let alone candidate to be a president or a president at the time already? I think he was just a politician or candidate to be a president at the time. So I was shocked. I literally dropped my teeth on the floor. And why in the world the American politician would be so defending the USSR and Russia? Why? There was absolutely no reason for that. And I remember that shock very well. And after that, my relationship, imaginary, my opinion, let's say, about Donald Trump went really downhill. He did not prove himself to be a businessman. He lost a bunch of businesses and managed to bankrupt casinos. The more I was finding out about him, the worse it gets. And now it's on the all-time worse. Like I reposted on Quora one of the posts, I think by Occupied Democrats or something like that, about why Brits hate Donald Trump. And I can say about 200,000 views I got on that, and people were agreeing at what Brits were saying. Brits were saying something like, he's not a gentleman. He doesn't have sense of humor. Which I agree totally, but this is not the point. It doesn't really matter. You do have sense of humor, you're gentleman, you're not gentleman. It's important, but it's not that important. To me, as a person who lived in USSR, the important thing, how you affect the life of other people. And when a dictator or dictator wanna-be come into power, people die. People die, people losing their ability to live in a normal democratic society where they actually have rights. In the Soviet Union, people were dirt. In nowadays Russia, exactly the same. Putin already lost over 1 million Russians. It's a dead, wounded, missing in action, in captivity, and so on. So it's not just dead. For no reason, dictator snapped his fingers and decided to go to a little successful war. This is what is happening. This is why I was showing Russia to Americans so much, because this is your potential future. Whatever right now Musk did in his dodge to the United States, they forbid it for Putin. Every dictator, like I have a videos on Trump you can watch, and it will explain more in details, especially about his 100 days in power. So all of this I put in his fault, because it is his fault. He's the one who started trade war with the whole world. Everybody knows that it's a stupid idea. It's only kill trade, and so on. So I love my friends. I love Americans. I love American friends. I don't want them to suffer. I don't want them to live in poverty. I don't want them to live in a poor country. Before Trump came to power, America was #1 economy in the world. Despite somebody's opinions, these were the facts, proven facts, with statistics, with everything. And right now, it's gonna be worse, worse, and worse. But this is not the worst what can happen to you guys. The worst thing, even not that parade, which is another thing he's trying to bring from the USSR. He's wiping his rear end with Constitution, using it as a toilet paper. He undermining the branches of the checks and balances. He's trying to destroy them one by one by one. When I came to Canada, I was shocked how the same people, Russians, Ukrainians, former USSR people, as well as English, French, came to North America. And they created such an amazing democratic country like Canada, where people have rights, people have wealth, people can retire and enjoy their life. People can live and they could have a good life. And it's the same people, basically. Genetically, ethnically, it's the same people. And I was always looking at the United States and Canada as an example. What can people do in Russia so we live like them? And now Russia is dragging the whole world, and started from Russia itself, into the Middle Ages, into the Stone Age, destroying what civilization created for years. And the same thing is doing the United States now, for no reason. At least in Russia was dictator in power, who ruined the country. Over 20 years, Putin destroyed the country. Putin increased corruption, which was before, but instead of fighting corruption and build the good country, he destroyed it. And pensioners soon gonna starve and everything, and a whole bunch of people dead, and now he's make us into fascist country, make us into hated fascist country for a reason, because Russia is killing Ukrainians, because Russia was killing Chechens, because Russia was killing Georgians. And I was trying to tell people the truth about that, so people know what happened. But he was corrupt. His regime was corrupt. He was full of corrupt oligarchs. He was stealing and stealing and stealing from Russia. So he decided to fix the opinion and make Russians appreciate him more, but by starting a little successful war. The big mistake many dictators made before him, and he ran into Ukraine. And guess what? Ukrainians doesn't want to die. They don't want to die. That's why they're fighting so fiercely to survive. But America was #1 economy in the world. They did not have any reason whatsoever to put their foot into that pile of excrements. They did not have any reason for that. Except now, Trump wants to be a dictator. He doesn't want to go to jail for the crimes he committed. That's why he will do anything in his power to stay. And this is why I created a post and a video. Who is more dangerous, Putin or Trump? And of course it was Trump, because the president of the #1 country in the world would be the most dangerous. Russia doesn't have nukes. Russia doesn't have powerful army. Russia doesn't have economy. Russia cannot influence the world as much as the United States. And the United States almost ruined the world economy right now. Many countries will suffer because of stupid decisions of one man in America. This is why, and I don't want people suffer, not in the world, not in the United States. And if you think the parade would be your biggest problem, $45 million, it's not. Every dictator is not only surrounding themselves with useless idiots, but very loyal. How do you enjoy it, by the way, Putin's political prostitute and Assad's political prostitute Tulsi Gabbard as the chief of your intelligence? You're not laughing, are you? We almost with Iran and Israel on the brink of world war. Why? And where is, by the way, Steven Witkoff, who's Trump's buddy, golf buddy, and real estate, who know nothing about Ukraine, who know nothing about Israel, nothing about Iran, yet he's supposed to be doing something on the Middle East or in Ukraine. How did that work out, eh? This is what happens. You ruin economy, you ruin the country by put incompetent people in power and giving them enormous amount of power. I want to add about those little successful wars. The problem is that when dictator and his regime started to fall, as I said, because he surrounded himself with a stupid but useful and loyal people who can't do their job properly. They stupid, they incompetent, but they're loyal. Eventually country is falling apart. This is what happens. And it happened in USSR, it happened in many other places. So what dictator gonna do? He need to explain it somehow. Yeah, he fired a few, maybe chop few heads, but the people need to know what will happen. So what is happening? They often started little successful wars. I just watched the video of Professor Gerdes explains, and I was kind of surprised that apparently, according to the law of the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, for example, Trump can fight about 90 days before other branches of the government will step in and say, oh, stop. You had no rights to start this war. So if he decided, well, why not to bomb Canadians, for example, he can, for 90 days, destroy my country, and nobody can stop him. And the same people who were marching on his parade, who were cheering to him, the military who was cheering to him in Fort Bragg, these people will do what he say. They will obey his orders. And they will kill Americans. They will shoot at Americans. Marines already went to Los Angeles, which they're not supposed to be there. By the law, it's not their duty to deal with that civilian protests, which was peaceful protests. People were exercising their rights. So if you are thinking that dictator, for some reason, will act like a democratic leader and obey some sort of silly laws, constitution, all of this, that's not going to happen. He will. Not necessarily Trump, I'm saying about any dictator. He will do whatever he thinks necessary to stay in power by any means necessary. And if he has to kill American people, he will. In the war which now probably will start in Iran, with Iran, Israel, and so on, without boots on the ground, it's highly likely that it's not going to happen. It's not going to be finished. So it is highly likely that some American people will die there. And in many other places, perhaps. So this is what dictators do. That's why I hate dictators. And this is why I don't like him. I don't like Trump. Because he wants to be dictator. And this is what dictators do. I have lived in two dictatorships in the USSR and Russia. And I don't want to live in another one. Or beside another one. Thank you very much. This is why I stood up against Putin and I stood up against Trump. Right now, Americans get their rights violated. The protests in Los Angeles. But this was after, when I was already warning about that this may happen, because I already lived through this. And I didn't want you to live through this. This is why I dislike Donald Trump, not because I don't like his suit. Because I don't like dictators. I don't like corrupt people. I don't like people who try to corrupt other people. I don't like politicians who are lying. And he's one of the most lying politicians, almost on par with Putin. This is why. Because I have reasons. And these reasons I stated, and I stated in my videos. You're welcome to watch it. And please defend your democracy. Only in this case you will have rights and you will have a good life. Because otherwise, he's trying to put American citizens outside of the United States in the prisons like El Salvador, and so on, like outside of the country, where your rights and your lawyers wouldn't be even applicable to you. They wouldn't even come to you. And when dictator come to power, when Putin killed Navalny, imprisoned his lawyers who doing their job as a lawyers, and nothing happened. And now Putin is so cocky because he's thinking he pocketed American president in his pocket. And he is thinking Trump gonna save it. And Trump so far is doing his very best to help Putin as much as he can. So United States switch sides. And after that bombing in Kiev, like where you literally will see the Shahed flying into the building, a residential building, there is no outrage, there is no problem with using cluster munition on a civilian city, which they did actually. Russia did it in 2014, Russia did it in 2022 from the first days in Russian-speaking city of Kharkiv in Ukraine. And now they're literally showing you the cluster munitions. I remember things. I remember, because I'm dealing with this war for many years, how people were talking about, oh, I was so much scream, oh, Ukraine gonna use cluster munitions, oh God. Ukraine and Russia did not sign that agreement that they're not gonna use it. It's supposed to be used on the battlefield, and that's exactly what Ukraine does. This is to clear up the trenches and so on. But using them in residential civilian cities is a war crime. And it's not my opinion, it's international law. And Putin spit on international law. He spit on everybody. And Trump is helping him. But it's not just Trump. As I say, there is no such a country as the administration of the United States. There is a country of the United States. He is doing it on the behalf of you, on behalf of the United States citizens. As much as Trump is doing on behalf of us, citizens of Russian Federation. This is why every honest Russian will stand up against Putin. This is why every honest American, like Jake Bro, for example, will stand up against Trump, against tyranny, together with, for example, General Hodges and so on. So please defend your democracy. Good luck to you. We're all cheering for you. We will do our best to defend democracy in our countries, because it's the best. It's not perfect, but it's the best system so far. I have lived in a dictatorship, and it's not comparable to the life in the democratic country. Well, thank you for watching, learn the truth and stay informed. See you later.